want to give an example.
Free and fair election is in.
I didn't interrupt you. To give an example so you understand why I am saying he makes factually incorrect statements. He, for example, said Pakistan did not shoot down Indian aeroplanes. I want him to consider the national interest. Le Monde, Financial Times, Reuters, none of these are Indian or Pakistani outlets, yet all of them have acknowledged that the Pakistani Air Force shot down multiple Indian planes. Secondly, Christina Fair, who I referred to earlier, who is an Islamophobe, who is a Zionist, who is a Hindutva supporter, she also acknowledged that the Indian claims of shooting down JF-17s, shooting down Pakistani planes is false. What we also have is movement in the stock market amongst the Chinese military defense industry, in which shares are going up and the shares of the French military plane Rafale is going down. So that is one example of many of the factually incorrect statements he made. A second statement that he keeps making: India is a democratically elected government. I grant you that. Does that mean that their actions are allowed even if they go against basic human rights? I am not speaking about Pakistan. I'm not speaking about Bangladesh. I'm not speaking about the Indian Muslim outlets. I am speaking about Amnesty International. I am talking about Oxfam. I am talking about the multiple human rights organizations that have spoken about the persecution of Muslims in India and in Kashmir. And I want to say something. A few days ago, I was in the valley of Kashmir. And in Kashmir, on the Indian side, there are hundreds of thousands of soldiers in that valley, because the people of Kashmir, they do not want to be ruled by Hindutva. They do not want to be ruled by this pagan religion. They want to live their lives according to their own free will. Now I'm going to move away from talking about disconnected facts to the meta-narrative. The meta-narrative of this man is the attack that happened in Pahalgam. I, as a Muslim, say that the attack in Pahalgam is an un-Islamic, unethical, immoral attack on tourists and should be condemned. But you will not condemn Modi for killing Muslims in Gujarat. Wait, I didn't interrupt you. Let me complete my point. You will not condemn the women in Kashmir being gang raped by Indian soldiers, and this you will find not only in Pakistani media outlets, you will find this in the BBC, you will find this in Western media outlets, you will find that the Indian Hindutva soldiers, they would go and they would torture people and they would hold up the valley through terror. And while I am talking about women being raped, this scumbag is saying Jai Hind. And that goes to show you, and so is he, that goes to show you, Jai Hind. Let me tell you something as a Muslim. As a Muslim,
There's never any Pakistani.
I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you, but you interrupted me because facts hurt. Let me tell you something. Jai Hind was a statement that was being used by warmongers. And I want you to realize something. Why is an Israeli supporter holding up the flag of the Indian government, which is a BJP RSS government? I'll tell you why. It's because of a reason. The Nakba, which took place in 1948, is similar to the Nakba that the Kashmiris went through in India. And just like the Israelis claim everything began October the 7th, likewise, Hindutva government claims everything began in Pahalgam. No, it didn't. The Kashmiri people have been brutalized for decades. The Palestinians have been brutalized for decades. And by Allah, both will be free from Zionism and from Hindutva.
And what about Islam?
Takbir!
Palestinians have always been losing. Every war, Pakistan has always lost. The Palestinians have always lost every war. Name me one war that Pakistan won. Name me one war that Palestine won. And then tell me Allahu Akbar.
Okay, good.
That's a challenge.
Fine. Let me do
That's a challenge.
Okay.
Okay,
I like that. I like that. What's your name? Ravi.
You're just engaging in
Okay. I want to take on your challenge.
Take on the challenge. I'll tell you one thing. I thought you finished.
Oh, sorry.
Right. What you are saying is that there has never been any Muslim ever raped a Hindu girl. What you are saying is that there are multiple reports of violent Islamic extremism. And I think there needs to be a royal commission in this country on violent Islamic extremism. When they rape Hindu girls, when they murder Hindu men, and what happens? And what is happening? What happens is this guy basically complains. What about the violent threats made against Candidate Lubna, who is now afraid for her personal safety? What about that?
Okay, can you finish?
And I'll tell you no, because you made a multiple load of points. There has never ever been a country called Palestine, and until 1964, they never even identified themselves as Palestinian. If you go back to Arab leaders, and I'll find it, they say specifically that this is Arab sources saying there is no such thing as a Palestinian. Now, there was a displacement of people in the 1948-49 war because the invading Arab armies told the local residents to leave. Now, I'm sorry, if you've just been attacked by the other side, you don't let people from the other side back. It is absolute insanity. And the international community has been too soft on this situation because there are very, very few genuine refugees left from that war. President Trump has suggested a solution for the wonderful territory of Gaza, because the territory of Gaza has been turned into a terrorist state with more tunnels per capita than London and Paris put together. And those tunnels are designed for terrorism. There are Jewish women and children being hidden away in civilian areas of the Gaza territory. That is cowardly, and that shows that there are civilians who are basically backing Hamas, and that Hamas are hiding in military they are hiding.
One second.
What is happening in reality? What is happening is that this is all false propaganda. Hamas terrorists are hiding in medical convoys. Hamas are operating out of hospitals. They have found AK-47s in hospitals. When I go to Wexham Park hospitals, I find doctors, medicines. I do not find AK-47s. But if you go to Gaza hospitals, that is what you find.
Okay. One second. Let me finish, sir. Let me talk to him 1 second. I want to highlight something that this man said. He admitted to something that we have been saying as supporters of the Palestinian people for the past 2 years. We have said Israel is committing collective punishment. I didn't interrupt you, sir. Is committing collective punishment. These are his words, not mine. Hamas under the ambulance, Hamas under the mosque, Hamas under the school, Hamas this. Let me give you an
They're
analogy.
everywhere.
Sir, I didn't interrupt you. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine there is a hostage that has been taken on Park Lane and the terrorist is holding a baby. The Israeli sniper will say to the international community, I believe this terrorist is holding a baby as a human shield. So I will shoot the baby. I will shoot the ambulance workers. They may be working with him. I will shoot the school children. I will rape those women as well. I will do all those things. They may be Hamas. There may be a 1% chance they are Hamas. That is his logic.
There are
One second,
reports.
one second, I'm not finished. Secondly, on Sky News, which itself is a Zionist outlet, on Sky News, and I want to highlight something which is absolutely amazing. Scumbags like Piers Morgan, even though he's a Zionist shill, even he has to criticize Israel now. That's how bad the situation is. The Israeli spokesman on Sky News was being asked about recently in Rafah, the ambulance workers who were shot dead, and Israel was found to be lying. He asked a simple question, and it's a question that he doesn't want to answer, and the Hindutva doesn't want to answer. Why can they not allow independent journalists in Gaza? And why can they not allow independent journalists to investigate what happened in Pahalgam? Because Hindutva and Zionism, whether it comes to the partition or it comes to Nakba, they both have the same meta-narratives, which is a meta-narrative of demonization and collective punishment.
No.
Hey, look, Hamas. Hey, look, Hamas.
No.
Hey, look, Hamas.
No.
Let's kill all the
No,
children.
no.
That's his logic.
No. What happens, there are credible reports of a situation where Hamas fighters were on top of an ambulance. If you go firing, if I get an ambulance to the local hospital, I will not have someone on the top with an AK-47. Hamas terrorists hang out in ambulances. Hamas terrorists can fire rockets from hospitals. Hamas terrorists hide behind women and children because they are cowards. There is no genocide going on in the Gaza Strip. There is no genocide. And the Jewish community are living in fear from all these hateful lies. If you conduct military activity in a building, then it becomes a target. I will give you a specific example of a father who told his child to go and throw stones at an IDF fighter. And because the IDF fighter is not a coward like Hamas, the IDF fighter gave the kid high five. So Hamas are drawing and are hiding behind women and children. And you know it. You know this is happening.
Let me explain something to you.
1 second, sir. I'm talking to him. 1 second.
If you are a soldier, you come out and fight. Hamas will not come out and fight. They are hiding in tunnels, which is why they built them. This is not rocket science. If you build a tunnel, it means you are hiding. If you are building a tunnel, the people of Gaza need to be liberated from Hamas, which is why the IDF have launched a major operation in order to liberate Gaza from Hamas.
So why the
Okay, 1 second. Are you done? Okay.
I'm done, yeah.
Okay. What I want to do is I want to narrate, and you can see Hindutva working together with Zionists. Look at them. And do you know what? I will give an example. I will give an example of a Zionist attack on a child, and that is Hind Rajab. Hind Rajab, according to him, she's game because she might be Hamas, might give birth to Hamas in the future. Her ponytail might have some secret information which could be conveyed to Hamas. I also want to highlight, just like Zionists kill children in Palestine because there are no two-state solution here. There's only Palestine. Likewise, Asifa Bano from Kashmir was a girl like Hind Rajab, who was killed by the Hindutva. Hindutva used the same logic as the Zionists because they both have the same meta-narratives. Their meta-narratives is this, and look at these Hindus, look at these Indians celebrating when we're talking about children being murdered. When I was talking about people being raped by Indian soldiers, the man over there from India said, Jai Hind. Imagine that. Long live India, he's saying, when I'm talking about people being killed and raped. This is, see, there we go, again. I give a challenge to the Hindutva, to the Zionists. They will never ever move away from the logic that they have of demonization and collective punishment. When I challenged him to the collective punishment demonization narrative, okay, I didn't interrupt you, but since you interrupted me, he said there is no collective punishment. Have a bird's eye view of Gaza. What's happened to Gaza? It's been leveled. The same thing that has been happening to the Kashmiris for decades. Collective punishment. And I want to say something. The man here, the Hindutva man who was saying Jai Hind earlier, he gave me a challenge and I want to answer the challenge. He said, give me a single war the Palestinians won. And this man here is a supporter of Zionism and Hindutva, and so is he. And both of them, they are challenging me to give examples of where the Pakistani or the Kashmiris have won and the Palestinians have won. So I will give an example where they have won, and I want you to address it. The fact that today Israel, with its navy, its army, its security services, its intelligence services, it cannot defeat Palestine is evidence of victory. The fact that India, with over 1 billion people, with their army, with their navy, with their air force, with their intelligence, with their cyber warfare capabilities, cannot stop the Kashmiris is evidence of their victory. And likewise, Zionism and Hindutva will both be footnotes in history because they cannot defeat an indigenous people who are standing up for their rights and an indigenous people who believe in La ilaha illallah. They believe there's none worthy of worship except Allah. We are not cowards, you are cowards, and you are cowards for attacking children, for using all of your weaponry. And I'm going to make a challenge to you and to you. Here's a question, I want you all to listen. Why has India and why has Israel, with all of their weapons and all of their army and navy and police and international relations that they have with all the countries, why have they not managed to control Palestine and control Kashmir? Answer that question.
I'll answer the question. Hamas keep hiding behind women and children. There is devastation in Gaza because every time the IDF attacks a building, now this is on the BBC, the IDF made a call. They said, get out of this building, we are going to destroy it, because they had credible intelligence that there was Hamas activity going on there. And they made every effort. They made...
You're a liar!
I'll stop when he stops.
India destroyed Muslims!
We're having a debate. Let's talk. Carry on.
350.
Let me make him go point. Let me make his point.
I do some India-style drinking.
No.
Oh, go on. I won't let it touch my mouth. All right, well, I'll give you an answer. A straight answer.
You can piss off.
All right. The Israel Defense Force rang because they had credible intelligence that there was military activity going on in the building, but yet they phoned the leader of the building to say, get people out. We are going to destroy this building. And they gave plenty of time. The reason why Gaza is devastated is because of Hamas. No one else. It is because Hamas is a terrorist organization dedicated to the extermination of the Jewish people. That is why. Now, what happened with the Pakistan issue? We have the same problem. You would think that Pakistan was the most peaceful, loving state that had ever existed. Yet they keep doing things like the Taj Mahal hotel attacks, they keep attacking tourists in Kashmir, and the reason why they attack the tourists is because they want to cast terror into the people of Kashmir. They want to spread terrorism. And in Indian-administered Kashmir, if there were a fair plebiscite, that would be something for the Indian government and the international community. But India is a federal system, just like America is. The Indian government decided to govern directly in Kashmir because of all the terrorism that is going on there. The trouble is that Pakistan is #1 exporter of terrorism. The problem is that the Arabs in Gaza and Judea and Samaria have only been identifying as Palestinian since the 1960s. Before that, you will not find a single credible historical source to a Palestinian people. And so, what is happening here is taqiyya. What is happening is that no Hindu should attack a Muslim. But this, according to this guy, no Muslim has ever attacked a Hindu. That is absolute rubbish. There are so many rapes on Hindu women in places like Uttar Pradesh, in the north of India. There are so many atrocities committed by Muslim on Hindu. And so it is human nature for the Hindus to strike back. I live in where I felt at peace, and I did not have anyone try and impose their religion or beliefs on me. So that is the only reason why I come to support the state of India. I am not a Hindu, but you never ever hear of someone coming out of India chanting the name of a Hindu god and then something blows up. You never hear this. Terrorism comes from Pakistan, which is called the pure state. If I, and by the way, note my language, if I were calling for a pure state, that is exactly what Hitler called for. So Pakistan gets its roots from Hitler, that you can only have a state for Muslims, because they said they wanted a Muslim majority state. It has gone up from around 70% to now 97%, because Pakistan has engaged in ethnic cleansing, Pakistan has engaged in terrorism, and Pakistan was harbouring Osama bin Laden. I mean, what do you think the local residents were doing?
Okay, one second.
What did the neighbours of Osama bin Laden do? Oh, I'm just going to...
Are you done? No, let me answer him, then I'll speak to you. Okay.
You need to talk to him.
Every single conversation that we have deflection. Why is it that every single time he speaks, he adds a new layer of falsehood?
No, I don't.
He said, this man, talking about me, is not willing to admit that Hindu women could have been raped by Muslims, or Hindus could have been killed by Muslims. I am not only ready to acknowledge that that is something that could have happened, I am also willing to acknowledge that whichever Muslim involves themselves in a crime like that, I can say is un-Islamic. I can openly say the killing of tourists in India, the killing of civilians in India is forbidden by Islam. But you cannot say that about the Palestinians, because your president referred to the Palestinians as the Amalekites. And what are the Amalekites? What happened to them? Their children, their elderly, their men, their women, their babies, and even the donkeys were killed. The collective punishment of Gaza is something which is evidence of the intent of the Israelis. One of the Israeli ministers, he called for the new king of Gaza. Likewise, Israel loves India because India is under the control of the Hindutva. Yet before Modi came to power, In the 1950s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s, the early 2000s, India was a supporter of Palestine. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. Before the RSS came to power, India, alongside the Soviet Union, who they were close to, were supporters of the Palestinian people. So this man is not only wrong in terms of the things that he's saying, even his own narrative is incoherent.
Rubbish.
Secondly, when it comes to the issue of Kashmir, the question that he doesn't want to answer is this: why is there media blackout in Kashmir? And why is there a media blackout in Gaza? I am Muslim. I am a hater of Zionism and Hindutva. You are a supporter of Hindutva and Zionism. Why don't we let independent journalists investigate in Kashmir and in Gaza? The reason why is because you know the Israelis have a lot of dead bodies underneath the rubble. And you also know that the Hindutva soldiers have committed mass crimes, as have been documented by international organizations in Kashmir. One last thing that he said, and I want to acknowledge this point. Pakistan's population of Hindus has gone down. That is a fact. That is a fact. I'm acknowledging that fact. I am right next to the border of India. That's where I originally come from, and I was there a few days ago. My own home village, my own area had Hindus and Sikhs. And those Hindus and Sikhs, they traveled across the border, and Indian Muslims traveled here. The partition is what took place. The two-nation theory was being applied. That has nothing to do with justifying your crimes in Gaza and your crimes in Kashmir. So one last point I want to make is this. I made a challenge and you ignored the challenge. And the challenge was set by the Hindutva guy who's gone now. And the question was, when have the Palestinians won? And I said, and I'll say it again, the Palestinians are winning. The Palestinians are winning by the very fact that they are still alive. Yet Israel, with its army, with its navy, with its police, with Mossad, with Epstein Island, blackmailing people all across the world, with HAQQ, stealing billions from the poor of America. All of this, and they still cannot defeat Palestine. Why is that? That is because the Palestinians have the hearts of lions, and the Israelis, they have the hearts of mice.
The term Palestinian was invented by the KGB. They never identified as Palestinians before 1960. Yasser Arafat had an Egyptian parent because when the Jewish people came back to the territory, they prospered it, and so Arabs moved into the territory. He is spreading hate and lies. There is no genocide going on in Gaza. There are Hamas cowards hiding behind women and children.
To kill them.
There are Hamas.
That's his logic.
There are Hamas.
His logic is.
You said you.
Sorry.
There are Hamas terrorists, because they're not soldiers, they're not real men, hiding behind women and children, hoping they are killed. There is no genocide going on in the Gaza Strip. You are actually correct. I would not blame an Israeli for saying, could we use our bigger weapons? Because what could happen? If they were trying to exterminate the Arabs in Gaza, they could do so in about a week, but they do not want to do that. What they want is peace. And the other thing you do not say, the Arabs have rejected peace 5 times. Edward Barak, who was the Prime Minister, Ulman Barak, who was the Prime Minister of India in 2008, suggested a peace solution with tunnels going between Gaza and Judea and Samaria. And again, the Arabs rejected it. Every time the Israelis offer peace, the Arabs reject it because the objective here is the annihilation of the Jewish state, and that is what they do not tell you. It is called HAQQ. And so what is going on here is he is conflating the two issues. But India and Israel have problems from violent Islamic extremists, and India wants nothing more than the leaders of all communities to work together to eliminate terrorism. You should never ever give in to terrorists. The terrorists of Hamas took innocent women and children on October the 7th, and they will not give them back. And now, thanks to President Trump, the Israeli army is now showing its teeth, and there will soon, I believe, be peace in that region, but peace through strength, peace through President Trump. God bless you. God bless you, President Trump. President Trump got a ceasefire in India and Pakistan. Long live President Trump. It is because of Trump backing up the people against terrorism that we have a chance for more peace in the world. Thank you, Donald Trump.
Like I have done before, the first thing I'm going to do is dismantle some of the factually false statements that he's making, and then, I didn't interrupt you, and then I'm going to challenge the meta-narrative. One of the things that he is saying is God bless Trump.
Yes.
And he is also trying to make it look like America. Make one thing clear. America is not friends with Israel. America is the slave of Israel. There is a difference. What happened to USS Liberty when the Israelis attacked the Americans? What is happening with HAQQ, where they are bribing American senators and they are investing pennies and they're getting hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions back in return. HAQQ is a system of depriving the American poor. So do not believe his lies that Israel is friends with America. Israelis do not give a damn about Americans. Israelis have simply bought the American politicians, and even the American right, has recognized, and they're turning against the fact that their country is being monetarily raped by the Israelis. The second point I want to make, we are talking about abstract numbers, abstract concepts. So I want to bring it down to Hind Rajab. Hind Rajab, who took hundreds of bullets while she was in an ambulance. The justification you heard from his mouth multiple times. Maybe she was Hamas. Maybe that was a Hamas ambulance. Maybe that was a Hamas cloud. Maybe that was a Hamas building. They have used this collective punishment to annihilate the people of Gaza. Did you notice when Netanyahu calls the Palestinians Amalekites, he doesn't want to address that point, because we know what happened to the Amalekites according to the Old Testament. What you find amongst him and the Hindutva here, they will not talk about Hind Rajab, and they will not talk about Asif Abano. They will not talk about these people. So what?
You're engaging in lies again.
Let's say let him speak first. You don't want to speak? You don't want to respond to our
I want to answer. You have just repeated You have just repeated and are verging on an anti-Semitic trope. And the anti-Semitic trope, can you please be quiet, because otherwise it'll...
Oh no, they're fighting amongst each other.
He is starting...
Allah
no,
says
I'm
they...
not. He's just having a conversation. What you have just started to say is you are treading very close to blatant anti-Semitism, and I will send this to my Jewish friends. You are starting to say that it's all Israel's fault, that it's just the Jews who are basically funding America, and it's just all the Jews' fault. Because fundamentally, the Palestinian people did not exist in the 50s. Now, you would have thought if there was a people that their history would go back a few years. You do not find any credible 20th century source pre-war talking about the Palestinian people. In fact, actually, the Nazis referred to Palestinians as Jews. Now, I note the cowardice of the Islamists in this part. I have told them that if this flag is touched, I will send the video to the Ambanis, and they are not people to mess around with. And so what is going on here are lies, lies, and more lies. If you are a fighter, you do not hang out in an ambulance. If you are a fighter, you do not store AK-47s in the classroom.
And they will not answer that.
And you will not answer that. Pakistan, Hindus and Christians have fled Pakistan because of the persecutions. He also does not talk about the trains full of dead people that arrived back in India because of attacks by Islamic extremists. And in such a situation, the Indian government has every right to defend Kashmir because it is India. The Indian government has to defend Kashmir because it was the Pakistanis who illegally invaded it. If you invade a country, you invalidate what the United Nations said. If you've invaded Essex and cleared people from Essex, then there could never be a free and fair referendum in Essex. You come out with lie and lie and lie. Go to the website of Stop the Hate. It's called